in 2018. And so from 8 households, which comprise of 54 families, we now have, 54 family members. We now have 17 households that are part of the program, comprising of over 100 family members. So we continue to reach more and more persons. I have to say as well, Mr. President, that what we do here in Nevis in social services is like a standard bearer for many of the other islands in the region. And this RISE program, Mr. President, was evaluated in March of this year. We had a UNICEF team that came to evaluate the program, and we got very high marks from the UNICEF team. Extremely high marks. And the UNICEF team would have been here. They would have spoken to the persons who are part of the program, and the persons who are a part of the program gave exceptional feedback on the program. And of course, they would have spoken to persons, the technicians as well. And all in all, the program got extremely high marks. High marks to the point where UNICEF has decided we are going to assist you as you continue to roll out this program to assist the vulnerable in the population. Mr. President, also, during the past year, we've had a number of persons in the RISE program who have signed up for CXC classes and are being assisted by my ministry, paying for the classes. And of course, we have seen the benefit. They have been taking the classes and very excited, and some of them are very excited to take the CXC exams as well. Apart from that, Mr. President, as I said, social service is a department that helps persons from the cradle to the grave. And we are aware that some of the persons who are part of the RISE program have, especially some of the children, they have challenges with reading. And we have also, as a part of that program, incorporated a reading and recovery program to assist the children in the RISE program. Now, Mr. President, it is a very holistic program geared towards the development of the entire household. And the household, the members of the household have been benefiting from several training initiatives. They have been trained in budgeting, because we are aware that even though people are vulnerable, and most of us are guilty of spending money on the wrong things, and overspending when we don't have the money to overspend. And so we are guiding these people, Mr. President, that when you get a little money from the Department of Social Services, you're supposed to be able to budget properly. There are some persons who live in rented homes. You have to be able to budget to pay your rent. You have to be able to budget to pay for your electricity, to pay for your water, and of course to buy food. And so they are exposed to budgetary training. They are exposed to training in parenting, health and nutrition, and disaster preparedness. And Mr. President, earlier this year as well, as a part of International Day of the Families, celebrated in May, we also brought all of the RISE families together at the villa. A nice little get-together for them. At least they can meet and mingle with the other RISE families. And of course, persons from staff were there as well. Now, Mr. President, apart from that, we also try to assist the members of the RISE families with employment. And we have been successful in attaching some members of the RISE households to part-time as well as full-time jobs. And I'm pleased to announce that under the program, $32,950 worth of personal work income was added to the households due to the RISE program during the course of this year. And during the course of next year, we are hoping, or we are aiming for $57,600 worth of personal work income from that program. Apart from the RISE program, Mr. President, we have what is called a YTS our Yes to Success program. Now, Mr. President, I'm sure all of us are aware that here in the Federation, here in Nevis and in the Federation, we have a huge problem with crime. And the Social Services Department, through the Families Division, we are trying our utmost to keep our young men in particular out of trouble. And I think we have done a pretty good job so far over the past years. And I believe that the program is continuing to work. I must commend the folks in that division. And it is all geared towards our at-risk youth. So that program targets our at-risk youth. I have to say that the success rate is very commendable. And more than 65% of the participants have been able to gain employment. So we are trying to target them, to keep them out of trouble, to train them in various skills, and also get them employed. As of January 2018, Mr. President, under the Yes to Success program, we had 67 persons registered, 49 completed the program, 80% were males and 20% were females, and we had 6 of these 49 persons who completed the program, we had 16 who had some conflict with the law, which means we are getting success. Mr. President, the program has been so successful that my ministry, during the course of last year, committed $80,000 to constructing a permanent home for the Yes to Success program. That will be coming on stream next year. Some groundwork has been done, but the entire structure of this program in terms of the building and so on will be on stream next year. I would also like to say, Mr. President, that the department also received funding from OECS and USAID in terms of equipment that will be used in that facility in 2019. As a part of the Family Services Division outreach, Mr. President, they have also introduced what is called a Checkers Club in 3 of the primary schools on the island, that is St. Thomas's, Charlestown, and the VOJN. And this club is really geared towards building critical thinking of our young people. And of course, aiding them in positive problem-solving skills as a means of controlling social and disruptive behavior. Mr. President, I'm sure the whole of Nevis would know that a part of our social services program is our program with the seniors. And that, Mr. President, has gotten an A+ in Nevis and across the region. And I believe it will continue to get another plus. Of course, I have to commend Madam Minister for the good work she would have started with the seniors, and which I endeavor to continue. You know, we have the free utility for some seniors who are living on their own, the water and the light, and we have the bus passes. And, Mr. President, we have endeavored to ensure that our seniors are involved in recreational programs, so our seniors no longer just sit at home doing nothing. Our seniors are involved. And Mr. President, when I go to these meetings and functions with the seniors, I see the glow on their faces. Our seniors are aging gracefully. And it's all a part of the programs, the outreach programs that we have in social services. And I can tell you, Mr. President, that the numbers of the seniors who are part of the program continues to grow, because the seniors who are a part of the program, they spread the message to the others. And so every year the numbers grow. When I was at the gala, the seniors gala at occasions there in October, occasions pack, jam pack. I go to the gala practically every year, because before I became the minister, I was normally the MC. And Mr. President, as the old people say, occasions couldn't hold a message. Couldn't hold a message. because the seniors are gravitating to what we are doing, and they are very impressed with our programs, Mr. President. And we are continuing to keep them young. And you know, Mr. President, only last week I celebrated the birthday of a senior, 102 years. And she looked just as good as you, Mr. President. Just as good as you. And she can converse just as good as you. So our seniors are getting good attention. And the thing is, Mr. President, the seniors are getting good attention, right? And we have engaged the services of 17 caregivers who are employed by my ministry, who go around to our seniors on a regular basis to check on them, to assist them in whatever they can do. And Mr. President, we are so kind not only to the seniors, but to the persons who are giving care, that we actually engage them in a University of the West Indies certified course earlier this year. Basic care of the elderly. So we want to ensure that the persons who are going out there and representing my department, they are fully equipped and they are fully trained to be able to take proper care of the elderly. And we have gone even further than that, Mr. President. We are looking after the seniors. We are looking after our persons who are looking after the seniors. And we are even reaching out to others who are at home looking after the seniors. We have developed this program called Care for the Caregivers, where we are reaching out to the caregivers at home as well, Mr. President. So we have a holistic development program for our seniors and the persons who are looking after our seniors. Mr. President, let me look briefly at the plans for this department for 2019. Now, I spoke about the Yes to Success program, and I did speak about our facility becoming operationalized in 2019. That will be at the Penny's Industrial Site, and that will become fully operational. As a matter of fact, as I said before, we have gotten equipment. We have gotten money for equipment, and the equipment is already here. That is how high we rate in the funding agencies that have already given us the equipment before the building is even ready. And so we'll be teaching things like hospitality preparedness, landscaping, tiling, glass engraving, videography, and the like. We're going to be targeting unemployed youth. And so from that, we believe that our unemployed youth can even open their own businesses and can approach businesses for employment. And of course, we are not doing this in isolation. We have always forged partnerships, and we are continuing to forge partnerships as we endeavor to get our young persons trained. And of course, we are doing this in partnership with other departments and with the private sector as well. Mr. President, we would have heard yesterday about a suspension program as well. We know that at-risk children or at-risk students normally give trouble in school, and sometimes they are suspended. And normally when they are suspended, they go home. And Mr. President, when they go home, they could cause even more trouble. And so the Social Services Department decided we're going to step in here. And when students are suspended, we are going to take over. And so from next year, when students are suspended, they ain't going home. They're coming to our facility. They're going to be supervised. And while they're there, under suspension, they can still be doing something with their schoolwork, and they could be learning a skill. Kudos again to my ministry. The Checkers Club, Mr. President, that will be improved in terms of diversion as well. And of course, we're going to continue with our seniors program. We have gone too far to turn back. We can only get better. And so our seniors program will only get better, Mr. President. And I'm sure persons who would have been looking at the television would realize that apart from the programs that we have for our seniors, we feature our seniors as well. When they have 80, 90, 100, anything over 100 birthday, We go, we make a presentation, we allow them to speak, and so at least persons in the public could be aware of who these celebrants are and how we are celebrating them. And so all of the fantastic work we're doing with the seniors will continue in 2019. The Care of the Caregivers program that I spoke about, that will be intensified as well. And Mr. President, we will continue to work with UNICEF as we continue to improve the RISE program. And we will continue to forge partnerships with, in particular, the Ministries of Health and the Ministry of Education. And of course, as I mentioned earlier about the RISE program and education of the RISE families, we have some training programs planned for next year to include management of non-communicable diseases. You know that is a big thing now. Home and land ownership. We want them to aspire to own their own home. And so we want to do some training in home and land ownership. And of course, it's very important, budgeting as well. And very importantly, Mr. President, I must include this, because next year, our RISE program will launch what is called the DADS Initiative. A lot of the times in our RISE program, and a lot of other programs, we see only the females, we see only the mothers. But my department, we're going to be reaching out to the dads. I was very happy when I attended the activity at the villa in May, that a few dads were there. But we want more dads involved in the RISE program. And so we're going to be launching the DADS initiative, and it's aimed at increasing male participation in the program. And of course, once we get the males, once we get the attention of the males, we are confident that the males in society will step up when it comes to doing their duty. Because sometimes it's because the males and the dads are not doing their duty why some of these families are in the position that they are in. And so we believe that with the DADS initiative, when we get more the dads involved, some of these families could eventually rise out of where they are and get in a better position. And of course, we'll continue the reading and recovery. Mr. President, I turn now to community development. And in terms of some of our achievements in community development, Mr. President, we would have had our community development month in May. It was a huge success. We had a number of activities, all of the centers across the island. I know there has been a lot of talk whether or not the centers are widely used, whether they are properly utilized, whether they are underutilized. But I could tell you, Mr. President, that there has been a concerted effort to get more use of our community centers, get persons in the communities more involved. I must say as well that one of the highlights of our community development month in May was what we call a gospel explosion, where we had a gospel song and dance competition, and we also had two artists here, Joel Positive Murray from Tobago and Calvin Prodigal Son Wilby from Jamaica. And Mr. President, I am happy that we had this function, because a lot of the times when we go out for things like culturam and that sort of thing, the Christians stay at home. We have to realize that the Christians are fun-loving people as well. And I was so amazed that evening when we had that concert, how those Christians danced down the place. So it shows that my ministry was reaching out and having this function for persons who want to be out as well, who want to get a taste of an overseas artist as well, who want to be able to lime until about 12 up at the village as well and getting some nice gospel music. And I must say that the gospel song competition was a hit, the dance competition was a hit, and our overseas artists were hits. And it was a very, very successful gospel explosion. Mr. President, we've also had the introduction of Spanish classes in some of our community centers. We've had homework assistance in some of our centers. We've had food preparation classes in some of our centers, and all of these are going to roll over and going to continue. So in terms of our plans, Mr. President, we're going to focus very heavily on training in 2019. And we're going to be having online training for some of our community development officers. We're going to have training in community tourism, capacity building for our group leaders. Mr. President, I'm very concerned. As someone who is a part of a community group, our community groups in Nevis have fallen by the wayside, unfortunately. And the few that remain, I think they need help. They need help in terms of capacity building. And the Community Development Department will be trying to do just that. Reach out to the executive of these community groups that are left and trying to get them up to speed and at least trying to do some capacity building where that is concerned. The conversational Spanish will continue, and we're going to continue to work with our at-risk youth in terms of character building. And importantly as well, Mr. President, we're going to be reintroducing computer classes for our seniors. I spoke about the work we've been doing with our seniors. And I could recall a couple of years ago, some of the seniors were trained in computer, and they were overwhelmed. They were delighted. And so we're going to be reintroducing some computer classes for our seniors, as well as computer classes in the community, at the community level. And we're going to be doing several skills training. And while I'm speaking about Community Development Department, Mr. President, I must here commend very highly the Community Development Department for a very outstanding, successful staging of the national tree lighting in Charlestown last night. Mr. President, if you came through Charlestown last night, you could hardly stick a pin. The thousands who were there at the lighting last night, and it was quite a spectacle. And I have to say that my department would have worked diligently, they would have worked overtime, but I think it was worth it all. They did a splendid job. And the spectacle that we saw last night when the switch was thrown on was something to behold. And so I'm encouraging all of you who were not there last night, make sure you take a drive through Charlestown tonight and the following nights and the entire season to experience it. Pictures all over Facebook, right? Please, you all need to experience it. And so I really want to commend highly Miss Maloney, Janet Maloney, who is the director of that department, and her entire team. I want to say a special thank you as well to Mikey Mills, because Mikey has been there day in, day out, night in, night out, to ensure that we had a fantastic, fantastic lighting last night. And so I really want to commend the department for doing such a marvelous job. You know, when we were there last night, the member for Nevis 1 was there, and I told him, this is the best time the square has ever looked, and it's under us, so we have to feel good. I'm not ashamed to say so, I'm not afraid to say it. It's the best time the square ever looked, Mr. President. And so I have to commend once again the workers there, because they made us look good. They made Charlestown look good, and they made Nevis look good. And in the process, they look good. Mr. President, let me now turn to the Department of Youth. And this is a department as well, Mr. President. All of my departments work hard. This is a department that would have done a marvelous job with our young people. Our young people are our future. And this department would have ensured over the years that they have been looking after the affairs of our young people to ensure that they develop programs for the development of those young people and try to ensure that those young people stay out of trouble. They have done quite a bit in terms of training, Mr. President. Last year, there was a youth skills entrepreneurship workshop. We want our young people to start thinking like entrepreneurs, like businessmen and businesswomen. And we had 13 young persons who were trained in the manufacturing of soaps and hair products. Mr. President, the Summer Job Attachment Program is one of our flagship programs in the youth department. And I am proud to report that during the course of this year, during our Summer Job Attachment Program, we had 62, let me repeat, 62 eligible applicants who were offered summer internships. So rather than these young persons who are ready to leave school, staying at home for the entire summer, wasting time, going on Facebook and doing all kind of nonsense on Facebook maybe. Of course, Facebook is helpful sometimes, but we know people could make some trouble on Facebook as well. So we had these young persons who were there at the Summer Job Attachment Program, learning things about the job, learning how to behave on the job, and so on. And of course, they were attached to various businesses, government departments as well. And that program is normally a huge success. Kudos to the Department of Youth. The Department of Youth as well, they were partnered with the Cultural Secretariat and the NCDF in hosting a costume design workshop. That is something that is annual, where we have facilitators from Trinidad and Tobago and Antigua come and teach persons the rudiments of costume design and costume making. So at least during Culturama, we can have our own people designing costumes and making costumes for our persons here to wear during Culturama. Mr. President, the Youth Department as well focused very heavily this year on Sustainable Development Goals. We hear a lot about Sustainable Development Goals, but I believe a lot of people are still not very aware and understand fully Sustainable Development Goals. And so a number of the activities that the Youth Department was involved in for this year was focused on the Sustainable Development Goals. The youth rally that they had as part of Youth Month, the focus was on the Sustainable Development Goals and getting the children who were involved in the rally more aware of the Sustainable Development Goals and understanding more about the Sustainable Development Goals. We also had an Easter camp, another flagship program of the department that was themed around the Sustainable Development Goals as well. And then, Mr. President, I think it was last month, or I'm sorry, it was not last month. Months ago, so fast, it was in September or October, when we celebrated independence. We had the Department of Youth partnering with the Sustainable Development Unit to put on the inter-high school debating competition. And that again, Mr. President, was focused on the Sustainable Development Goals. It was a very nice competition. We had the 3 high schools, the Gingerland Secondary, the Charlestown Secondary, and the 6th form college were involved. The Nevis International did not take part. But it was a very enlightening and educational series of debates. I have to commend the Charlestown Secondary School for eventually winning the competition, but very well organized by the Youth Department and the Sustainable Development Unit. In terms of the plans for youth, Mr. President, in 2019, emphasis will be placed in 2019 on human rights, youth with disabilities, which I think a lot of the times is overlooked, volunteerism, after-school programs, and youth excellence. And so we're going to be endeavoring to do some training in human rights. And with regards to youth with disabilities, I did speak about our flagship Summer Job Attachment Program. And we want, within that program, at least 5 spots dedicated to youth with disabilities. In 2019, Mr. President, we'll be offering more after-school mentorship program. And of course, the mentorship program would be twofold. It would provide homework assistance as well as to provide some basic skills teachings in terms of basic skills techniques as well. And of course, Mr. President, as we would have heard yesterday in the budget, we'll have something called Youth Excellence, where we're going to launch Impact 12, where every month we're going to focus on one young person and put the spotlight on that young person in terms of what that young person would have done in terms of excellence in youth. And of course, the Summer Job Attachment will come back next year. And while I am wrapping up on the Department of Youth, Mr. President, I want to go on record here to commend very highly the work of the former director of the Department of Youth, who was stolen by the Ministry of Education. That's Ms. Danella Claxton. I really want to commend her for the excellent work that she would have done in the Department of Youth. She would have introduced some very excellent programs there, and the programs continue to bear fruit. So I want to thank her for the work that she would have done, and I want to wish her all the best as the new Principal Education Officer. I know she will do a magnificent job there as well. Mr. President, let's now turn to the Department of Sports. I seem to have the most departments, Mr. President. I don't know why. So now let's now turn to the Department of Sports. And the Department of Sports achievements are many. We have some signature sports development programs in the Department of Sports. We have development programs in athletics, in football, in cricket, and in basketball. And in the line of football, we have our grade 3 students, both male and females. We target those. We also have what is called a grassroots football program for both males and females 6 to 12 years. And we have what is called the Under-17 Elite Program, which caters to the top Under-17 players on the island. In cricket, Mr. President, we have the Under-17, we have the Under-19, and we have the Under-23 programs. And these programs, really, Mr. President, they are geared towards getting top-class, promising players with potential to go on to the regional level. And I have to say that all of the players who represented Nevis in the Leeward Islands Youth Tournament competitions in 2018 are products of the development program of the Department of Youth. I'm also pleased to announce that 3 players in Anderson Armordan, Kian Pemberton, and Jelani Manos, they made it to the Leeward Islands Under-19 team. All a product of the work that my department is doing. And young Carlon Tuckett was elected and toured the United Kingdom with the West Indies Under-15 team. In athletics, Mr. President, I think we are all aware that the primary schoolers, they have their coaches for athletics. The high schoolers have the coaches for athletics. But we saw a void at the preschool level. And so my department focuses on the preschoolers. Now, the program started in 2016, and it started with just 3 preschools. Now, we have 9 preschools that we are delivering the program to in terms of coaching with regards to athletics. Let's turn to basketball, Mr. President. Now, the department's basketball program continues to bear fruit. We actually have a development team from the Department of Youth, and that team is called the Youth Eagles. And the Eagles would have participated in the St. Kitts Nevis Basketball Association tournament in St. Kitts for the past years. They would have placed in the top 4 for the past 2 years. And I'm also pleased to announce as well that they traveled to Statia earlier this year, and they placed 3rd from a field of 8 teams. So once again, our basketball program is bearing fruit. Mr. President, just like the Department of Youth has a flagship program, the Summer Job Attachment Program, the Department of Youth has a flagship program as well, a summer camp. And I have some figures here for the summer camp, Mr. President. We had the sporting disciplines. We had 43 persons involved in cricket, 29 in netball, 8 in volleyball, 37 in football, 34 in tennis, 21 in table tennis that we don't hear much about, 25 in golf, and 37 in basketball. It shows that our young persons are gainfully employed during the summer months. The Department of Sports as well, Mr. President. Over the past year, we have organized a number of tournaments which have been very successful. Kudos once again to the team there. We had the Nevis High School Championships, which was reignited a couple of days ago by my Department of Sports. And so we had the Charlestown Secondary, Gingerland Secondary, and the Nevis International Secondary School taking part in that 3-day event at the ETW Park, athletics of course. We've seen the completion of the TDC Ronalco Morton Primary School Cricket League. We had 6 teams taking part, and I have to congratulate the Ivor Walters Primary School, who are the eventual winners of that tournament. The Ivor Walters came out of the regular athletic season, and that it generated so much interest. Mr. President, we also had some competitions in cricket. We had the Paradise T20 Explosion, and of course we know that 2020 cricket is the in thing now. Everybody likes 2020 cricket. Once you're a cricket fan, you must like 2020 cricket. It's fast. And we had 4 franchises. We had the Super Sixes, who were the eventual winners. We had the Big Rock, we had the Smashers, and the High Voltage. Then we also had a league to expose our under-21 shining stars. And we had, featuring teams, we had Windwards, we had Central, and we had Easterns. And you know who won? Easterns. People who come from the East always do well. Right? And, Mr. President, the final tournament that we had, which was completed only last month, that was the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis State Ball Tournament. And it was very exciting. And every time I went to the park, Mr. President, to look at the cricket, people would say, boy, I commend the Department of Sports for putting cricket in the park, because cricket has been missing from the park. And I know that members of the Nevis Cricket Association are a little upset with me because I've given them some licks over the past weeks, but they deserve the licks. They deserve the licks, because unless my department organizes cricket in the park, there's no cricket in the park. And that can't be good for a cricket nation like Nevis. Cannot be. And so I was proud of my department for organizing this state ball tournament, and it brought out a lot of crowd. It brought excitement to the park. And guess what, Mr. President? You know who won the tournament? Empire. Empire. That I'm the president of. So I have to be a little happy. I have to be extra happy, Mr. President. But trust me, it was a good tournament. The finals was between Empire and All Stars. And it was really a walkover for Empire. So congratulations to Empire. Congratulations to all of the teams that took part in that tournament. And congratulations once again, big up to the Department of Sports for doing such a great job. Now, Mr. President, unfortunately, we haven't been seeing much netball on the island of Nevis. We have a facility there which needs some work, which I will ensure will be done in the very near future. But unfortunately, netball has fallen off very badly over the years. And because of the fact it has fallen off so badly, my department as well decided to try to bring it back in 2018. And so they would have organized a tournament there in Brown Hill. They would have invited some teams from St. Kitts to come over. I know they would have done some work with some netballers in the Gingerland court as well. And so we are on a mission to bring netball back to its glory days in Nevis. We have a pretty good facility. As I said, some work will be done on it, and we want to ensure that once that work is done, that netball could come back in Nevis the way it used to be. Mr. President, on the sports as well, we've had drag racing, and I have to say, Mr. President, I was never a fan of drag racing. And I have to confess as well, Mr. President, that the first time I attended a drag race meet is since I became the Minister of Sports. But I'm happy that I went, because it's a quiet, you get a lot of excitement there. A lot of excitement is generated. And for this year, we've had five meets. We brought the crowds out. The last one I attended, I think it was for the Independence, massive crowds. People have confidence in anything that this administration does. And that is why they have been coming out in their numbers, Mr. President. And we actually have the final one for this year on Sunday coming. So those of you who like drag racing, we have the final drag racing meet this coming Sunday at the drag race track. And this year, once again, we were able to attract cars from Montserrat, from Anguilla, from St. Martin, and from St. Kitts. Mr. President, in terms of what we've done as well in 2018, I'm very pleased to announce as well that when I took over as the Minister of Sport, I did make a commitment that we will have some upgrade to our facilities, our sporting facilities. And the upgrade work has started in earnest. We've done some fabulous work in Gingerland at the courts there. And so we've had resurfaced netball, basketball, and tennis courts. Spanking brand new courts. Very well resurfaced, very well marked under this administration. And it's not going to stop there, because I will ensure that all of the facilities on the island have bathroom facilities as well. That will come as well, Mr. President. And all of the other facilities that need work, including the Grell Hall Stevens Netball Complex, including all of the other courts around the island, work will continue next year. In terms of the plans, Mr. President, for sports, see, my time is running very quickly, so I have to speed up. Mr. President, we will renew our focus on the facilities upgrade that I spoke about, and we're going to be trying to do some capacity building as well. I just spoke about the Cricket Association, and a lot of our sporting associations need help. Some of them need help and they don't know they need help, right? But my Department of Sports will be reaching out. We have been reaching out already, but we'll be doing more reaching out in terms of capacity building for the sporting associations. Because we have found, Mr. President, that most of these sporting associations, they come to my ministry only when they want money. They come, and sometimes it's a lot of money they want to, Mr. President. And my ministry does help as well. But a lot of the times we're not seeing the dividends. We're not seeing the results that we want to see. And so we want not to just be handing out money. They need to be able to give an account as well of the money that they get. And they need to be able to raise funds as well. And so my Department of Sport will be trying to do some capacity building with these associations. I have to commend here, which I've done several times, Miss Parry, who is the president of the Basketball Association. Her association has done well. She's from Church Ground, right? Miss Wanda Parry. She has done a marvelous job as the president. And I believe the other association presidents on the island should be ashamed that this lady has been leading so well, and they're not following. They are not following quality from the ladies. And so, I am using this opportunity to appeal to the other associations, including football and cricket, and I believe we should be getting, hopefully we would need a netball association as well, and athletics as well. We need to follow suit, and you need to start raising money. Because it's all not about just coming and you getting a handout and then nothing else happens. I mean, Mr. President, I had to hang my head in shame earlier this year. And I don't like saying it, but I have to say it, Mr. President. I had to hang my head in shame as the Minister of Sport. When we would have spent so much money on our cricket team to send them to Montserrat this year, and you know when they placed? Last. They placed last. And Mr. President, I'm serious. It is embarrassing for a cricket nation like Nevis. We were the first to put a Leeward Islander on the West Indies team. And we have the potential. We have the potential is there. The talent is there. But Mr. President, the Department of Sports cannot take over the Cricket Association. We will not be recognized by the Leeward Islands Board. We will not be recognized by the West Indies Board. And so I am telling the Cricket Association, you need to step up. You need to step up and step up big. Our footballers as well, they have potential. The Football Association needs to step up. We will be doing what we can to give that assistance, but we cannot do their job for them. And so we will be reaching out to these associations in 2019 for some capacity building, but the onus is on the associations to play their part. My ministry have been playing its part, probably been playing the part too well, and that is why they're relaxing. And so I'm using this opportunity again to appeal to the associations. It will not be business as usual in 2019. Step up, put on your shoes, and step up. Mr. President, we will also be trying to work along with our community groups to have more competitions within the community. We want, Mr. President, in 2019 to as well roll out a national coaching certification program. And that will be the first time that Nevis will have its own coaching certification program. I spoke already about the upgrade of the facilities. And we're also hoping in 2019 to introduce a sports week, hopefully. And we hope that definitely that will come to fruition. And during the sports week, we're also hoping to launch a Nevis Sports Hall of Fame. And of course, the summer camp will come again in 2019. And Mr. President, I'm also pleased as well that at the Department of Sports, because they have been so involved with so many things, they have decided to document things. And from next year, well, as a matter of fact, they would have started. They already have the draft of a newsletter. And so from next year, they're going to be going full-fledged into producing a newsletter on a regular basis, which will be distributed across the island so people could be aware of what is happening in the Department of Sports. Mr. President, I also have a Sustainable Development Unit, which has also been very active. And during the course of last year, the Basic Needs Trust Fund, the BNTF, would have come to a close. And we would have had to absorb our staff from the BNTF in the Sustainable Development Unit. And even though the program, the BNTF, came to a close last year, they had some unfinished projects that had to be completed during the course of 2018. And I'm going to just briefly speak about some of the projects that were completed in 2018. BNTF related, we had the installation of water storage tanks in community centers in Bath, Brown Hill, Pond Hill, and Hanley's Road. Each tank has a capacity of 2,500 to 3,000 gallons. We've also had the distribution of maintenance toolkits, very important, to all of the primary and the secondary schools. Mr. President, we've had the official handing over of construction of 4 classrooms and a science lab at the Gingerland Secondary School. We've had the official handing over of fully equipped and furnished lunchroom at the Cicely Brown Integrated School. In terms of sustainable development related activities, Mr. President, we've had the completion and the presentation of the St. Kitts and Nevis voluntary report by governments on the national progress towards the Montevideo Consensus of Population and Development. I had the privilege, Mr. President, of traveling to Peru earlier this year and presenting a report there. And I must say once again that our report was very well received, and Nevis got very high marks in terms of what we are doing here on Nevis in terms of development of the population. We also had, as I would have mentioned, the hosting of the Independence Debate Series, and quite recently as well, we had a 2-day workshop on sustainable development focusing on things like agriculture, tourism, energy, and water. In terms of our plans in sustainable development, Mr. President, I would have spoken about the SDGs earlier, and we want sustainable development goals to be a household name in Nevis. And so next year we're going to be intensifying our efforts with the departments within my ministry and other departments to ensure that is a reality. We are hoping to host what is called the Sustainable Development Goals Awareness Week, and we're going to have more training in sustainable development, and we will also be developing a sustainable development database. Mr. President, let's talk about culture. And for culture, we have the Culturama Secretariat, and we have the Nevis Cultural Development Foundation that oversees the work of culture here on the island of Nevis. And of course, it's no secret that during the course of this year, we had a very hugely successful Culturama Festival. And it's because of the work that has been done by the Culturama Secretariat as well as the NCDF. We were able to bring back the Calypso tents. They had some excitement. We had a performance workshop for junior Calypsonians, and I guess that's why we had such huge numbers taking part in the junior Calypso competition this year. And of course, we would have done a marvelous job in marketing Culturama at home and abroad. We would have partnered with various regional institutions to market the festival. And we would have reintroduced the Mr. Cool contest. We would have assisted in the Windfest and the St. Thomas Festival. And we're really working hard with these parish festivals, Mr. President, because we always believe that these parish festivals can feed into the success of our Culturama. Mr. President, we would have completed the first phase of work at the cultural complex. And of course, patrons who came to the cultural complex this year were very pleased with the work that we would have done. They would have done some work on the stage area, We have done some work on the seating, and the work is scheduled to continue. And of course, because of the work, all of the promotion and so on that we did, we had increased participation in a number of our competitions, notably Junior Calypso competition, Senior Calypso competition, the Cultural Street Parade, and we were able to bring back the Junior Street Parade in 2018. And of course as well, Mr. President, with all the success, you have to talk about money. And we were able to have increased revenue over 2017. Still on culture, focusing a little bit on the NCDF, they would have hosted a very successful activity at NEPAC called Pan Elegance, where we had, and Pan is on the rise in Nevis, Mr. President. I'm very pleased to say that Pan is on the rise in Nevis. And we had a very successful, a very classy event there earlier this year, where we had a number of the steel bands on the island taking part, not in a competition per se, but just in a night to showcase their talent. Very well received. We would have had this year introduced by the NCDF what we call a cultural hub, where we have our folklore, and especially the younger folklore, the masquerade, the clowns. We also had the steel pan, the drummers, and so on. They went around the island and made stops at various parts on the island, various shops, did performances. They did that for the 10th anniversary, and it was again done this past Saturday. And I must say, it was very well received. It was a magnificent way to ring in the Christmas season this past Saturday. Kudos to the NCDF. And I have to say as well that the NCDF was charged with the responsibility of executing the Junior Cultural Street Parade this year, and they did a marvelous job. First time after a very long time. The NCDF were not only coordinating the parade, they also were responsible for making the costumes for the schools. And I have to say that practically all of the schools, primary and secondary, took part in that Junior Street Parade this year. Mr. President, I'm also pleased to announce as well that the NCDF, in conjunction with the Department of Culture on St. Kitts and the NHCS here on Nevis, they have successfully written to UNESCO for funding for a project for our intangible cultural heritage. And the project was successful, and we have received funding to the tune of $100,000. And that will be used between St. Kitts and Nevis to document and do other things with our intangible cultural heritage. Mr. President, in terms of what we plan to do in 2019, we know next year is a big year. It's a huge year for Culturama. Culturama 45. So, Mr. President, I'm urging you to start getting in shape now. I'm expecting to see you in a troop next year. 45th. So we have started in earnest our promotion. First time in the history of Culturama, Mr. President, that we actually launched our slogan competition during the festival this year. So we have started very early to ensure that next year we want next year to be another homecoming year, especially for our families and friends in the diaspora. We want I'm going to sound the alarm right here. So those of you who are looking at me or listening from overseas, start booking your tickets for next year, please. Because I believe next year we're going to need reinforcements here in Nevis, because Nevis might sink a couple feet. Because we want the whole of all the persons who are divisions or related or friends come home for Culturama next year. It will be a festival. It will be a celebration like no other. And I know that the Culturama Secretariat and the NCDF will deliver. Mr. President, I also have to say that during the course of next year, we're going to be continuing our work at the cultural complex that was started. Our spanking cultural village will get another facelift. We're going to paint up the containers. And, Mr. President, I know it's a wonderful facility, but the performers often say that they don't have enough space to perform. And so we're going to be increasing the size of the stage as well. And so we have quite a lot of work to do next year for Cultural Village and the Cultural Complex. We must ensure that our facilities are up to par for when all those persons descend on the island of Nevis for Culturama 45. Mr. President, in terms of information, NTV. Mr. President, I have to say here that the NTV, Nevis Television, they have provided excellent coverage of government activities as well as non-government activities during the past year. I must give special commendation for the live streaming that has been taking place, orchestrated by the Department of Information. And I must stick up in here as well and say that the live streaming that was done for Culturama 44 got excellent feedback from persons in the diaspora. And kudos, Mr. President, to the team at NTV for the marvelous job that they have been doing to ensure that what we are doing, all of the good work that is being done by the CCM-led Nevis Island administration, is being beamed out there to members of the public, not only at home here in St. Kitts and Nevis, but throughout the entire world. They are now on all of the social media apps, and so you can get all of the NTV programs on all of these social media apps. And I have to say as well that they've been partnering with the IT department. I want to say a big thanks to the IT department for the partnership, for all of the excellent work you have done with the Department of Information as well. And I have to commend the staff at NTV, because they're always on call. Always on call. And normally, most of the times when they are called, they respond. And respond favorably, Mr. President. And so, kudos and commendation to the team there for the work that they've been doing to ensure that we get excellent coverage for government programs. And I am confident that that excellence will go up a couple notches in 2019. Of course, we are here, Mr. President, and the whole world can see us. The NTV cameras are here. Department of Information folks are here. And because of their presence and because of their hard work, we are beaming throughout the world. Mr. President, I could go on a lot more. But top meetings. Mr. President, I want Mr. President, something I've spoken mostly about the achievements and the plans now. I'm going to go off a little bit on something else. Because, Mr. President, I believe some of us in Nevis are very strange. Yesterday, Mr. President, we had an outstanding presentation of our debate, of our budget for 2019. Excellent job by the member for Nevis 2 and the Premier. Forward-looking, a budget that had substance. Anything that this administration does has substance anyway. And, you know, Mr. President, since yesterday, I've been getting a short clip on WhatsApp. A short clip from the budget presentation from the Premier, the presenter of the budget. And it is strange, Mr. President, Because the only thing in that clip, it's a video clip too, you know. And then even before I came here this afternoon, I got not only the video clip, but I got the script. And it's a 29-second clip. And the only thing in the clip is that Four Seasons going to close. Mr. President, that is the only thing in the clip, that Four Seasons will close for 4 months. Now, Mr. President, I believe that some persons in Nevis, here in Nevis and overseas, were happy when that was said. Now, why would we be happy? Why would we be gloating over the fact that Four Seasons will close for 4 months, Mr. President? Does that make sense? Does that make sense, Mr. President? Now, I keep wondering, why are people sending around this clip that Four Seasons going to close? That is the only thing they're sending around. Mr. President, this budget that was presented here in this honorable house yesterday had so much substance, so much good news. But no, they didn't say anything about the good news. They didn't say anything about the great things that's happening in education. They didn't send out the clip that the Gingerland Secondary School got 96% pass rate this year. The best in the Federation, 3 years in a row. They couldn't send out that in a clip. They couldn't send that out in a clip, Mr. President. Our schools are getting additional classrooms. They couldn't send that out in a clip. Health, doing a lot of work in health. Hospital project well on the way. No, they can't send that out in a clip. Because guess what? It's going to make the administration look good. Mr. President, roads. Roads and more roads. We have done so many roads this year, and they're going to a lot more coming next year too. They couldn't say that because it's going to make us look good. All the work that is being done in housing, the housing revolution, can't say that send out that in a clip. All the work that is being done in agriculture, Mr. President, they can't send out that in a clip. All of what I have just outlined here in my ministry, Mr. President, they can't send that out in a clip. We've passed integrity in public life that they've been calling for all these years. We've passed freedom of information. We've recently come here to do something with NEPA. They can't put that in a clip. But, Mr. President, the only thing, and you know what bothers me as well, Mr. President? The presenter of the budget, he did say Four Seasons will close, but he did not end there. He indicated as well that the workers will be getting 25% of their usual salary when the hotel is closed. He also indicated that our caring cabinet, our caring administration, will be reaching out to the Chamber of Industry and Commerce. We'll be reaching out to the banks, Mr. President, so at least we can have some assistance to these persons who will be affected. You know, yesterday I was by a business establishment to purchase something. And a young man said to me, so I hear Four Seasons are going to close. I said, well, how you know that so quick? Because I said to myself, I'm sure he did not listen to the debate. He said, really, all over Facebook. And you know what he said, which was instructive? He said, the people who are against the government get it all over Facebook. I am not the one who said it. And I found that instructive. And it says a lot, because if people are sending out this clip just to say Four Seasons closed, it is an indication that people are happy that Four Seasons are closed. And Nevisians should not be happy because everybody is affected. Our government will be affected. The government coffers will be affected. All of us have family and friends working at Four Seasons, Mr. President. So why should people be glad if Four Seasons don't close? We're totally ridiculous. And so our persons need to think about what they do before they do what they do. Because if people are not glad, but you see, Mr. President, some people are happy that this announcement was made, you know, that Four Seasons is going to close for 4 months. because they probably think that this will bring down this government. But I have news for them, Mr. President. It can't happen. It will not happen. You know why? Because we have a very competent leader and we have a very capable cabinet. And I'm here to tell the people of Four Seasons and the whole of Nevis that we will all weather the storm together. We will weather the storm together. And nothing like this is going to bring down this government. This administration ain't going anywhere anytime soon. Get that message loud and clear. We are not going anywhere anytime soon because we're here by divine intervention, and with God's help, we're going to remain here. And with the support that the people of Nevis has placed in us, we will be here to fight the battle of Nevis and Nevisians and residents. So those who are gloating over the Four Seasons closure, continue to gloat. Continue to gloat, because it's not going to get you anywhere. So don't look at the seat of government, because you're not going to get it. Simple. Plain and simple. You're not getting it. Mr. President, I had to say that because I think it's a little disturbing. It's a little disturbing that every minute my phone getting this message. I was in here, so I heard the message, so I don't need to hear it again. So if anybody is intending to send me the message, don't send it. I don't want to hear it again. And so, Mr. President, I want to say that our government, our administration, stands fully with the people of Four Seasons. We stand fully with them, and I want to encourage all of the workers. Remember, you have 6 months notice, and I want to encourage you with this wonderful season that you're going to have from this month until May. Start saving some money, because trust me, you're going to make money this year. You're going to make money in this season. Start saving. Be very prudent. As I would have indicated last night at the Christmas tree lighting, we in Nevis have a business of overspending during Christmas. We overspend, we overeat, we overdrink. We overindulge in too many things. And so if the good people of Four Seasons are normally accustomed to overspending for Christmas, please, please put the brakes on the spending a bit. And trust me, we will get through this. We will get through this. The administration stands with you. Mr. President, I'm about to come to the end of my presentation. I have to say that I have been in this position about almost a year now, Mr. President, and it has been a challenge, but I have to say that it has been quite rewarding as well. And I really want to thank all those who would have assisted me along the way. I really want to thank all of the department heads who I think have been doing a good job. There's always room for improvement, but I'm pretty satisfied with what I've seen so far this year. I'm expecting for even more in 2019. And I really want to say a special thanks to my immediate staff at the ministry. The PS, Mr. Keith Glasgow, the Assistant Secretary, Ms. Michelle Liburd, and the staff in my office, Shelley Liburd and Natasha Clark. They've been doing an outstanding job, and I have to go on record. I think I have 2 of the best workers in the civil service. They're in that department, in that ministry. Really done an outstanding job. I've been welcomed there wholeheartedly. I felt very comfortable, and they have made my job a lot easier. So I really want to say a special thank you to them. Mr. President, we are in the Christmas season, and I have a long, long list of Christmas tree lightings here. 27 of them. Could you imagine? 27. Nevis leads the way with everything, you know. And so I'm encouraging members of the general public to support these Christmas tree lightings in whatever way you possibly can, whether monetary, whether you want to go and show moral support, but I'm encouraging you to please attend. You know, it's not easy to organize these ceremonies. And so when people work hard to organize these ceremonies, Mr. President, people should go and show their support. So I'm encouraging members of the public to go out in their numbers and support the Christmas tree lightings. And I would ask persons during this season as well, Mr. President, humbly ask persons to be moderate in whatever you do. Look out for your neighbor. Look out for your family. Look out for your friends. As I would have said earlier, there are a lot of persons who are not so fortunate. And Christmas is a time of giving. And so I am hopeful that here in Nevis we could show some love. It should be a season of love, giving. You know, and so I am hopeful that persons who do not have, who are less fortunate, will be on the receiving end from persons who are a little better off. And so I'm asking persons to live up to the virtues of Christmas during this holy season. And Mr. President, I would just like at this point as well to wish you and all of my colleagues here on this side, the opposition, clerk, sergeant at arms, the other officer, all in the gallery, gentlemen here operating the television, the whole of Nevis, whole of St. Kitts, all in the diaspora, a very happy and holy and healthy Christmas season. And I would also like to take this opportunity to wish all a very productive and prosperous and progressive and successful 2019. And please bear in mind, Nevisians and residents, that your caring administration will be there for you in 2019 and beyond. Mr. President, with those few words, I would like to wish this budget safe passage to this honorable House. Mr. President, may it please you, sir.
Mr. President, I rise to make my contribution in support of the bill shortly entitled the Appropriation Ordinance 2018-2019. And like my colleagues who went before me, I would like to commend the Honorable Premier and Minister of Finance and the mover of the bill for presenting us with a budget that continues to restore hope for all of us on Nevis. Hope for our youth, hope for our seniors, hope for gender. And I said gender because we are still of the notion that gender connotes women. But I'm talking about men and women. There is hope for all of us. But most importantly, Mr. President, what this budget has done is that it has ensured all of us that better days are yet to come. The best is yet to come. And so, Mr. President, as we embark on this journey of revitalizing the economy, there is a clarion call from the Premier through the budget for all stakeholders to come on board. I want to reiterate the point, Mr. President, that we must all applaud the Premier on a number of new initiatives that he so ably articulated in this budget. The establishment of an economic council to provide governance or guidance to the government. Mr. President, this is indeed a big and a huge effort for the Premier to be calling on civil society to bond itself into such a council to perform as a think tank to assist the government in making the right decisions in terms of enhancing the development of Nevis. The Premier continued in his budget, and he continues to forge partnerships with the private sector. The private sector should be the leaders of growth, should be the growth partners, should work along with government to provide that holistic development for our country. The move of the bill continued. In having ongoing discussions with the key partners of tourism and construction. These are two vital pillars in the overall development of Nevis. And so having all these persons on board, Mr. President, undoubtedly could only result in better days ahead. An important aspect as well, Mr. President, is the call to the security officers to come together and assist the government in fighting crime. As a tourist destination, one crime in Nevis is one too many. And so, if we are to get everybody on board, undoubtedly, Mr. President, we will be able to move Nevis forward. And so, what I liked about this, Mr. President, is that as a government, we are cognizant that we don't have all the answers. We cannot do it on our own. And so, this important call for partnership solidifies this government's seriousness of restoring sustainable development and an overall economic development for Nevis. And so, Mr. Premier and Minister of Finance, I would like to commend you wholeheartedly in presenting us with that budget that gives us hope. That budget that shows how serious you are in putting Nevis and the affairs of Nevis above yourself. Mr. President, early this morning, we listened to the Minister of Education, Minister Liebert, and he outlined a number of things that is happening in education and what he hopes to do in the new year in pushing education forward. And his emphasis is on youth and preparing youth for the digital world and for the global market. As was outlined in the budget yesterday, there is a $5 million grant fund, not grant fund, it will be fund that is made available for small businesses at very minimal interest rate. And so I would want to encourage the Minister of Education in its development of programs, that one such program should be that of entrepreneurial skills. Encourage our young people to develop their own businesses. It is only when one works for themselves would they be able to have that autonomy. Will they be able to give back to society in a tangible way, Mr. President? And so I would like to also place that on your list of programs, Mr. Minister of Education, that having a program introducing entrepreneurial skills among our young people is one that is vital to move Nevis forward as well. Mr. President, the high point for me in this budget is that it is a tax-free budget. And I say it again, no new taxes. What this does for the economy, Mr. President, is that it provides a stimulus package for businesses. They can regroup. It provides that extra cash in hand for persons. And so over the seasons, even though we have just been chastised by Minister Evelyn not to overspend, at least we will have a little more cash in hand that we can buy one or two important things. Not a need, not a necessity, not a want, but a need, a necessity, Mr. President. And so I go on record in congratulating the Premier in providing such a budget that continues to give us hope and continue to help to stimulate the economy and revitalize it overall. Mr. President, I now move to the year under review. And I look at the Ministry of Health. I must say, Mr. President, that when I was given this portfolio, honestly, I was somewhat apprehensive. Prior to me coming into government, I would have clocked 23 pensionable years in government. And during that 23 years, I never worked in the Ministry of Health, not even for an hour to answer the telephone. And so I was indeed apprehensive. But I must say that changes are good things. It helps you to grow. It helps you to look at life from a different perspective. And I think during this year under review, I have been able to grow and develop in another area. It has given me more scope, more latitude. And that I would like to thank the Premier as well for giving me that opportunity to work in another department, to learn people from a different scope, and to see how best we can work together to advance healthcare in Nevis. And so in the Ministry of Health, lots of things are going on. We, at the Alexandra Hospital, Mr. President, we have strengthened, or we have sought to strengthen the human resource capacity. And so, for this year, we have seen the addition of 2 new general physicians. We have 2 trained nurses who have just come back from studies, both are attaining master's degree level. We have a radiographer and an internist who has just returned as well. Mr. President, I want to make my next comment go viral because this is something positive. First time in the history of Alexandra Hospital, we can now boast of a 24-hour medical doctor coverage at the outpatients department. It means, Mr. President, that if you were to go to Alexandra at 10 o'clock at night, at 2 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock in the morning, there will be a doctor on staff to deal with all medical issues. I am certain, Mr. President, that you will agree with me, and the entire general public will agree with me, that this is a major accomplishment for us as a government and for health care and health service in Nevis. Earlier this year, Mr. President, we saw the commencement of the major expansion project at Alexandra. This is the single most financial intensive project under the Ministry of Health at this time. And when this project is completed, we will see a new radiology unit, a lab and physiotherapy units, a dialysis unit, 2 operating rooms, 6 private wards, a conference room, and facilities for all on-call staff. This upgrade, Mr. President, will improve the diagnostic service at the hospital. Earlier this year, or a few months ago, we had a little snag in terms of the construction. However, we have now worked through that. And so we are confident, Mr. President, that the project will go as planned and will be completed for its target date, which is in 2020. Mr. President, we have instituted a robust collection system at Alexandra. We are trying to collect some outstanding debts that we have on our books. And I want to say that we are not at this point introducing any new fees. However, we are trying to collect and most of the outstanding fees or outstanding debts that we have had at Alexandra over the years. We have 2 persons working in that unit so far, and based on the new system that we have put in place, we have seen a number of new initiatives being put in place in terms of collection. And so we have seen most of our outstanding debts collected. It is a work in progress, Mr. President. And so in 2019, we hope to establish a full-fledged collection unit, because it is envisaged once we are to put things in place, we will be able to collect all the outstanding amounts while at the same time remaining current with our bills. Mr. President, we are admonishing persons that when they access service at the hospital, to kindly make a special effort to pay their bills on time. If they cannot in any way pay the full amount, then we have payment plans that they can enter into. And so at the end of the day, they will be able to pay their full cost for using the services at Alexandra. Mr. President, in the Ministry of Health, we are big on training. And so during the year, we saw the completion of our local homegrown nursing assistant course. And I draw your attention to a statement made by the member opposite earlier today when he asked, why are we importing nurses? Why can't we make the criteria more manageable so more of our local persons could get into nursing? Mr. President, we saw the need to sort of, I don't want to use the word water down, but we saw the need to make the criteria a little more flexible to get some of our young persons to be interested in nursing. And so there is a homegrown program which we have implemented. And so this year we saw 9 persons trained and graduated from that program, a 12-week program. Those persons so far have been employed at the mental unit, at the Flamboyant Home, at the St. George's Seniors Home, as well as the hospital. The overall intention, Mr. President, is to have them gradually move up through the system. And so while they are employed, they would gain the necessary hands-on experience and will do their subjects one by one until they get the full requirement and the full slate of subjects that would make them eligible to attend or enroll in the bigger course that is into the nursing course. And so this is done towards assisting more young persons to get into the nursing profession, Mr. President. In the line of training, we also received some additional training for nurses in the management of chronic kidney diseases. And this training was had from the Taiwanese government. And so a number of persons benefited from this training. A chef, a doctor, and a few nurses traveled to Taiwan and received on-the-job training in the care and management of chronic kidney disease. I would like to place on record our profound thanks as a government to the Taiwanese government for ably assisting us over the years. Presently, the 3-year program will end in 2019. However, they have already committed to an extension and an expansion of this program. And so, when this first phase is finished, is completed, they will then look at the management of diabetes and hypertension, because it is believed, Mr. President, that these illnesses would invariably lead to chronic kidney disease. And so early intervention is of paramount importance, Mr. President. And so I continue to thank the Taiwanese government for their assistance and their partnership over the years. Mr. President, the Health Promotion Unit is one of those units under my portfolio that I would want to, from the very onset, commend them for the job they have been doing. I must applaud them because they have been doing an excellent job in developing public awareness, in interacting with the media, in encouraging positive behavioral changes. And so, Mr. President, whether it is disseminating information with regards to HIV and AIDS, or chronic kidney disease, or just leading healthier lifestyles, the Health Promotion Unit is out there doing just that. And I must go on record as well to thank the Taiwanese government again, because earlier this year, they presented us with some funding to develop a communications unit within the Health Promotion Unit. This unit will seek to assist the officers to get the word out there in a more timely manner, to be in the faces and to ensure that all information and all categories of people would get the information on a timely basis. It is not in any way to replace the work of NTV or NNC, but it is to assist in bringing the programs on a more timely basis. And so when they go into the field to develop their programs and to get the marketing done, they will then turn that information over to NNC for airplay so that the general public could have a look and will be advised in this regard. And so I must again thank the Taiwanese for this assistance. I am happy to report, Mr. President, that the Health Promotion Unit is now certified as a rapid testing site for HIV and AIDS. In the past, only specific places we could have that test done. But as we speak, the Health Promotion Unit is now certified to do so. And I say, Mr. President, from this rostrum, that there are qualified persons, professional persons in that unit who will give the necessary counseling to persons who would want to go and to find out their status. And at the same time, they will be able to administer this test. And so I would want to go on record again by commending the workers at the Health Promotion Unit for all the work they have been doing. No. Less than an hour. Yeah. The rapid testing is less than an hour. You can get the results in less than an hour. Mr. President, because of the financial intensive nature of health and health care and health service, we at the Ministry of Health, we have enjoyed some very cordial relationships with a number of overseas partners. One such partner is the Starkey Hearing Mission, who visited in June of this year. This is their second visit to Nevis, and during this dispensation, 64 persons were screened. 31 of the 64 were new clients, and 17 were repeat clients. And the 17 repeating clients were all fitted with hearing aids. Mr. President, prior to my coming into this ministry, I would not have been privy to this information. And so to hear so many persons needing hearing aid was somewhat of an eye-opener for me. And so I would like to thank that group for their continued partnership. Mr. President, the Nevis Eye Care program is yet another program that I would like to highlight. And I must say thanks to Dr. Raymond Hubb and Dr. Peter Foote and their teams from the United States. They have been coming here for a number of years, over 25 years, and have been delivering service in the eye care clinic. What I have seen, Mr. President, is that we have more persons coming over from St. Kitts to access this service. That's true. It's true. We have so many persons coming over from St. Kitts that this year we had a very long waiting list of persons and had to reschedule some persons for the next visit. And so, Mr. President, these are partnerships that we hold close to our hearts because they have been doing a very tangible job to our persons in Nevis in terms of eyesight and in terms of hearing. In the area of community nursing, Mr. President, where the focus is on primary prevention. This year, we rolled out a new school health initiative. And what this does, there are a number of lab tests that are done to detect blood grouping and sickle cell. And this is done for all students as a part of their annual physical checkups. This very critical information is used to detect early intervention. It is said that the difference between getting well and your condition worsening is that of early intervention. And so the emphasis for us in the Ministry of Health, especially in community health, is to have as many checks done early so that if there is an underlying problem, it could be detected early and could be treated early as well. Another one of our long-lasting partners is PAHO. And through PAHO, we were able to have all health centers outfitted with EKG machines. We are able to check on all persons who are visiting the health centers. They are able to check if they are hypertensive and if they are diabetic. As I have said before, early intervention is very important. And having this machine in all the health centers, we are able to tell personal status at a very early age and then put remedial measures in place to counteract these illnesses. Through the PAHO assistance as well, each center can now boast of a new immunization system. This new system allows nurses to track a child's immunization status. And so we cannot thank our partners enough because, as I said, government cannot go it alone. This is a finance-intensive area And so we welcome all assistance we can get from our partners. Mr. President, in 2018, one of our major accomplishments was the remedial work done on all the health centers, or on some of the health centers. When you drive through Gingerland, you will realize that the house that once housed the dyslexia unit has now been converted into the new dental unit. We are now able to service more persons in a new and aesthetically pleasing environment. We have 2 dental chairs available, and so we are able not only to service the students, but we are able to service the general public. As a matter of fact, some persons are now leaving the dental health unit in town and going up to Gingerland to access the service up at the Gingerland dental unit. I would also like to say, when you pass the Butlers area, the Butlers Health Center as well has benefited from some remedial work. And I would like to place on record my profound thanks to the members of the maintenance crew. I know that when I asked for these persons to come and work with health, I had some pushback. It is not for me to create another public works department, but in the Ministry of Health, we need persons who we can call on the spur of the moment to get remedial work done. And so this health team, headed by one Sylvester Thompson, has been doing a great job in terms of remedial work. They have also transformed the estate house up at Hard Times. The estate house at Hard Times. And now, now we have transferred the health center from Gingerland up to the Hard Times temporarily, Mr. President. And that building has also benefited from an overall facelift, and my maintenance crew is responsible for that. They are hard-working people, and I want to say that they finish, when they finish a job, it is so crisp that you can compare it with something else, someplace. Exactly. Thank you, Minister Jeffers, for that. And I must applaud them for that. Mr. President, this year as well, in the Ministry of Health, we have been able to purchase 4 generators. And these 4 generators were purchased out of government funds. These generators are used in the health centers, so all the health centers on the district now have their own generator. The reason being, Mr. President, is that in the past, when we would have experienced power outages from neglect, we struggled in terms of keeping certain medication at a particular temperature. And so we had to go back and forth juggling as to where we can store them. But now with these 4 new generators, each health center will be able to store their insulin and their medication, Mr. President. These generators will be commissioned shortly, and I must place on record again that this government is looking out for healthcare. Healthcare is priority for Nevis, and so we continue to see how best we can serve our clients. Mr. President, I now turn my attention to the Environmental Health Unit. This is another unit for which I am charged. This unit has some of the hardest working persons. And I dare say as well, Mr. President, that this unit is one of the most misunderstood units. The reason being, Mr. President, is that they are a stickler for things being done the right way. And so, from time to time, persons misunderstood what they are doing for just wanting to give trouble. But we have to take into account that they have oversight for restaurants and hotels and eateries in general. And so if they are not on top of ensuring that these institutions are kept clean and kept up to certain standard, it puts the whole general populace at risk. And so even though they are misunderstood by many, I would want to commend them for the work that they have been doing, because they play by the rule, they ensure that they are in compliance with the policies and the laws that govern their department. There are times when I have to tell them to be a little more flexible, but at the end of the day, Mr. President, I applaud them for doing what they know that they ought to do. It is somewhat as well understaffed, and we are in the process of recruiting more qualified persons so that we can have a better division of labor in that area. But for me, the high point this year has been their collaboration with the solid waste department in terms of cracking down on the illegal dump sites in Nevis, and would have gone on a number of projects and programs together where they have brought persons to account to clean up their areas, and some persons they have already brought in front of the court. And so this is a very serious department, and I must commend them for the work that they have been doing. The Solid Waste Authority, Mr. President, is yet another entity which falls under the ambit of the Ministry of Health. We have challenges, Mr. President. Space at the landfill has been a challenge. However, in the past few months, the authority has been able to reclaim at least 3 to 4 acres of land. And this is so because of the project that has been undertaken by Enclave, and that is the Enclave Scrap Metal Program. To date, that program has shipped over 1,500 tons of metal overseas. And so that space that was taken up with all these derelict vehicles and white material and things like that has been cleared. And so we have an additional 3.5 acres of land that we can use as a landfill. However, because the present landfill has reached its capacity, we are looking for alternate ways of dealing with our waste. And so in 2019, we will start to go into recycling one-use plastic, cardboards, green waste, and other options are being explored at this time. Mr. President, I must applaud the management and staff of Solid Waste for not only their passion in dealing with illegal dump sites, but for their passion in keeping Nevis clean. I think that is the bigger picture for this authority. They want to keep Nevis clean, and so they are cracking down on persons who continue to litter, who continue to start illegal dump sites over Nevis, and I must applaud them for the passion they bring and for the energy that they bring to this department as well. I would like to go on record, Mr. President, by saying that the authority will seek out all those persons who continue to dump indiscriminately. they, in 2019, will seek to bring all perpetrators to justice. Because in 2019, the Solid Waste Authority will seek to bring all persons who continue to dispose of their garbage indiscriminately to justice. They will spare no ends on anybody who continues to do this. As I would have said here earlier, the tipping fees at the landfills are not exorbitant, very cheap. And so I cannot understand why persons continue to dump all over Nevis. And in some cases, some of the perpetrators, they would have taken the monies from establishments who pay them to go take their garbage to the landfill. They take the payments, and yet they dump them elsewhere and not taking them to the place where they should be dumped. And so the landfill, the Solid Waste Authority, and by extension this government, will not tolerate any kind of illegal dumping whatsoever. Persons, if you are caught, you will be dealt with the full extent of the law. Please be guided accordingly. The Gender Affairs Department, Mr. President, is or has been in transition in 2018. Initially, they formed part of the greater body of the Social Services Unit. And so it was only 2 months ago we were able to get our own space, our own home for gender. However, they continued during the course of the year to do a number of programs and seminars. And a few of the seminars that they did are as follows: the sexual harassment in the workplace. I wasn't aware that this is a huge problem in the little country of Nevis, but indeed it is. Persons from different institutions have reached out to the department and asked for a seminar of this nature to be had. And it is because the problem is there. It's an underlying problem still, but it is there. And so I am happy to note that this program was held in 2018, and it will be developed into a larger program that we seek to have annually. Domestic violence awareness. This too is another area, if you don't know, you wouldn't know. And from this rostrum, I would say as well, that in as much as we think that domestic abuse is labeled on women, I would also like to say that the reverse is true as well. There are some men right here in Nevis who are being domestically abused as well. And so the program is geared not only to women, and that is why I want to use the term rightly, gender, because it caters for both men and women. The retirement planning. This, for me, is a huge seminar, because some persons would work from month to month, year to year, without the vision or the view that at some point you have to retire. And so what this program does is to prepare persons for retirement. Our retirement age is a bit young still, but we all know at age 55 that is retirement. And if by virtue of your experience and your skill set you are given an additional 4 years, you should, before that extra 4 years, start making preparations for retirement. And one of the main issues, because I attended the opening session and stayed at one or two of the sessions, one of the key ideas that came out of this seminar is to encourage persons to start their own little retirement fund. If when you come to the civil service or any place of employ at age 19 or 20, if you were to start a retirement fund and say put $50 in that fund per month from age 19, then when you get to age 55 or 59, that amount would have grown substantially, and at least it would add to your retirement package, and you will be in a better position to continue leading a productive life. And so I am happy that the Gender Department was instrumental in having these seminars during the course of this year. They also had a Health is Wealth seminar for women and men. I want to say here that this Health is Wealth seminar should also be looked at not just by individuals, but by institutions as well. Because if you have a staff that is not healthy, that is not well, it means that your bottom line at the end of the year will be affected. If you have persons taking sick leave twice per month, 4 times per year, it means then that your services will not be the same, and as I said, it will indeed affect your bottom line. So I am appealing to the managers of various institutions to allow your workers to attend these seminars, because they will learn a thing or two, and indeed they will assist your institution in building a strong profit margin at the end of the year. It is envisaged that in 2019, the department will roll out a full slate of training programs based on the 2030 Gender Equality Agenda for Sustainable Development. Mr. President, the Ministry of Health, we are looking forward to 2019 with much anticipation. We are hopeful that we will be able to provide greater health care service unmatched anywhere in the region. Our projections for 2019, Mr. President, in terms of human resources, we expect to increase the nursing staff by 25%. And this would include specialist nurses in the area of intensive care, aftercare, and psychiatry. We also seek to increase the physician complement, and we have started, because this year we have seen 2 general physicians being added to the staff, and the next year, in 2019, we will add an additional 2 doctors. A nutritionist is added to the health promotion unit staff and will assist in the area of nutrition and counseling, meal planning, and helping us to strategize to combat non-communicable diseases. Mr. President, we have seen a significant rise in non-communicable diseases, and that's the hypertension and the diabetes and some cancer. As it stands in St. Kitts and Nevis, 80% of the adult population are either hypertensive or diabetic. And so we have to do more to combat these epidemics. In 2019, we hope to introduce some new services as well as adding to or revitalizing some older ones that we have had. We hope to establish a counseling unit in 2019. And Mr. President, the reason for this unit is that we have seen an upsurge in a number of cases that need early intervention. We have seen an upsurge in the behavioral changes in children, starting from the preschool level. You understand? And so we are trying to mitigate the risk of these cases escalating into other disorders, mental issues, issues of, well, defiant behavior. And so what this unit will do, we will take referrals from education, social services, and other departments that might have clients who they realize are exhibiting a certain level of behavior. And so, Mr. President, at the Ministry of Health, we are about forging partnerships. And so, this particular unit, we will reach out to education, to social services, and to other departments where we can have a tab on persons who are showing deviant behavior, and especially from education. We want to create that intervention from a very early age, Mr. President. As I said earlier, we plan to expand the current chronic kidney disease management program. Mr. President, we are also seeing an increase in the number of amputees in Nevis. And the amputees, these conditions they stem from the chronic diseases, the hypertension and diabetes. And as I said, the Taiwanese government, they are on board, and they have committed to expanding and extending the program, which ends in 2019, in April of 2019. And so phase 2 will continue right after. The health promotion unit, they will be scaling up their messages with their new fully computerized and fully computerized unit, communication unit, which will be attached to the health promotion unit. They will be coming on stream with new programs in 2019 to bring awareness. They will try to target the marketing strategy where we have the marketing strategies appealing to our children with sweet drinks and sweets and things like that. And they will be trying to counteract these kind of marketing strategies. And all this will be fully developed in 2019. Mr. President, we will seek to introduce new diagnostic services in Alexandra. As we speak, there is an ultra-state-of-the-art ultrasound machine that is on its way. It is due to arrive in Nevis in February of 2019. And I want to applaud the efforts of this government as well, because this piece of equipment was purchased purely out of government funds. It goes to show, Mr. President, that we continue to put healthcare at the top of our list. We are not waiting for anybody to do it for us. We are taking the lead role, and whatever assistance we get from the back end, we do appreciate and we accept. But we look forward to commissioning that new ultrasound machine in February of 2019. We also seek to purchase a CAT scan within the first half of 2019 as well. And Mr. President, it is our view that the purchase of this machine will allow persons to access critical diagnostic services here on Nevis instead of going over to St. Kitts or even further afield. And just like the Eye Clear Clinic or the Hearing Clinic, we welcome persons from St. Kitts as well to come and use our brand new machine when that machine is on island. And so plans are being made as we speak to purchase this CAT scan within the first half of 2019. Sitting. Mr. President, in healthcare, we look after all demographic of people. We look after the youth, the young, gender, the seniors. And for 2019, it is our hope that we will extend the phlebotomy services to vulnerable groups such as the elderly and the disabled. what the phlebotomy is simply taking blood, extracting blood. Rather, we prefer to help our seniors in this way. Rather than having them come to the lab, we seek to take the service to them and do it in the confines of their homes. And so, where there are instances where seniors and persons with disability would have to do blood work, we will take that service to them and have it done in the comforts of their home. Mr. President, we continue with the hospital project, and we are certain and we are confident that that project will be completed on time. It continues. 2019 would be in its second year, and we continue as planned and hope that it will remain on track. Mr. President, in 2019, we also plan to commence architectural drawings for the construction of 2 polyclinics, one in Gingerland and the other in St. James's. Let me make it clear, Mr. President, we seek to develop the architectural designs in 2019. However, I'm not saying that they will be built next year. This will be a phased process, Mr. President. And so, in year 1, we will look at the architectural designs, we will look at identifying the lands and sourcing the lands. In year 2, we will look at sourcing the funds. And then in year 3, we will look at construction. Mr. President, this is done that way because it is the prudent way to do budgeting. And so this administration is very big on budgeting properly, budgeting wisely. And so we are looking at a 3-year phase program. But at the end of the 3 years, we should have 2 polyclinics, one in the Gingerland area, one in the St. James area, and this we feel would take some of the pressure off of the Alexandra Hospital. Health finances. Health financing, Mr. President. In a capital-intensive or capital-strained environment, we have tried to do more with less. But the time has come for us to try to collect all outstanding fees owed to the hospital. And this we will beef up in 2019. As I said earlier, we established the positions in 2018, and in 2019, we hope to roll out a full-fledged collections unit so that we can have persons doing the collections, we can have persons keeping proper records, and have persons following up with clients of Alexandra to ensure that they comply with their commitment. Mr. President, as a government, it is expected for us to provide top healthcare services in Nevis. And we know that, we understand that, but it comes at a cost. And so, if we are prepared to keep our end of the bargain, we are hoping that the clients of Alexandra would keep their end of the bargain as well. The National Commission on Universal Health Care. Mr. President, this is a huge undertaking in St. Kitts and Nevis. Universal health care, universal insurance. This was launched in February of 2018. And Mr. President, the government, the federal government and the local Nevis Island administration recognize the many hardships that our people are faced with in dealing with their health issues. A number of our persons are without health insurance. And what this universal health insurance seeks to do is to provide access to universal health care for all. Mr. President, I crave your indulgence, and let me give you an insight into the amount of monies as a government that we have been spending over the years through our public assistance vote. And these amounts, Mr. President, are to persons who fall on hardship and cannot afford to take care of their medical bills. And so in 2013, the total for the year was $381,715. For 2014, $408,862. In 2015, $544,900. 2016, $524,500. In 2017, $470,700. And by October of this year, it was $620,010. So you see, Mr. President, this is the debt burden of the government when we seek to assist persons with their medical bills. And so we feel that it is important that the health insurance is or becomes a reality. There has been a number of consultations being done as we speak. We have had consultations all over Nevis, and persons have gone, and the attendance of these consultations was overwhelming. I was surprised because I didn't realize that persons were paying so much attention to this. And so for the past, the number of things, we had over 400 persons attending these consultations. They would have made valuable contributions to discussions, and these discussions would be taken on board and would form or influence the process leading up to the white paper. And so I must thank all those persons who would have come to these consultations and would have made their contributions. Some persons who didn't attend the consultation sent their comments and their contributions via WhatsApp, via emails, and for that I am eternally grateful. Mr. President, the Gender Department in 2019 will seek to promote gender mainstreaming as a path to gender equality and as a means of fostering more equitable distribution of resources. Presently, there is a gender policy that is being done, and will present us with a roadmap on how we will mainstream gender and gender-based budgeting across government. Mr. President, at the Ministry of Health, we will continue to maintain and nurture existing partnerships with academic institutions such as the University of Virginia, where we have a relationship in terms of doing research, the government of Taiwan in the area of staffing, training, and helping us to procure equipment. And just recently, Mr. President, we will have entered into a partnership with the Fit Wellness Center, as they have put forward a plan in assisting us in dealing with the non-communicable diseases. It is a fitness plan, and next year it will be rolled out in 2019. And so, Mr. President, I would like to finish my discussion this afternoon where I started, and I would want to go on record again to commend the Honorable Premier on an excellent budget presentation, and to thank him for giving us in Nevis hope as this budget seeks to invest in the people of Nevis and in the economy, and to prepare Nevis for a brighter future. Mr. President, I would like to further thank all the workers under the Ministry of Health and all the units in health for so ably assisting me over this past year. As I said earlier, this is my first experience in the health sector. It has been a learning curve, but it is one that I am indeed enjoying. And it is because I would have had the full support of all members of staff who would have actually held my hand and walked me through the process. I must thank them fully. However, in closing, I would reserve my right to speak on the adjournment. And so, Mr. President, with these few words, I would like to wish this budget a safe passage through this honorable House. May it please you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I rise and I seek your leave, and I ask for the adjournment of this honorable House until 10 a.m. tomorrow, December the 7th, 10 a.m., when the debates will continue.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion.
The question is that the motion to adjourn the House until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. House adjourned.